beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul.
So tune in, don't miss what we got to share. If I rule protesting, I spread the love everywhere.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. I am Professor Bear, and this is a Bear's Thought. And guys, girls, I hope you enjoyed the new theme music. I'm just going to be real with y'all like I always am. I did 4 podcasts yesterday, and I enjoyed every one of them. But I was like, I was missing something. If you go back to look at my podcast, how are you going to know if it's a special or not? And that's when it hit me. Let's do a special new one. And I made the original music. Yes, it's me. No, it's not me singing. Hell no. I'm not trying to lose fans. I'm trying to gain them. So then I get creative juices going, and this is what you see. I hope that you enjoyed it. And today we are sponsored by 2 tremendous products. First, it's Tag Team Toys and Collectibles. If you're anything like me, as a kid, I was big into wrestling, everything. So I had it all. My dad was real understanding and knew that. So once I got a little older and I started working, I got a job at Toys R Us. Now, for all you young millennials that don't know what Toys R Us is, look it up. You won't be sorry you did. But as working at Toys R Us, I got all my hands on all types of wrestling figures and stuff. So again, when you get older, you got to put your perspective, your priorities in order. I had a family, and they got some little crazy notion that they like eat and want to eat and have a roof over their head. So I stopped collecting. Then one day I was cleaning out my garage, and lo and behold, I found a lot of my figures. Guys, girls, when I tell you, I had the original run of ECW figures. I'm like, I was mind blown. So I was like, cool. Then I'm sitting there thinking, with today's times and man, running short of money, man, I could really use some money. So I'm gonna go ahead and sell them. But Professor is just too lazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna sit on the internet trying to sell figures. I'm not. So I started looking up, and lo and behold, in my area of East Tennessee, I found a great place called Tag Team Toys and Collectibles. And they have some of the greatest figures from so many different generations of wrestling. They have, like I said, figures. They have accessories. They have VCR tapes. For you all who are too young to know what VCR is, look it up. I'm telling you, you won't be sorry. So, but they have so many things that are just great for the wrestling fans. Plus, they have comic books and other collectible toys. So, if you do me a favor, on Facebook, go and look up Tag Team Toys and Collectibles. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed. And our other sponsor is Chops, Cards, and Print on Demand. Again, as a kid, wrestling nerd, I used to collect all kinds of cards: baseball, football, basketball, wrestling. And just so y'all don't think I'm lying, here's my WCW collection. And you see how thick it is. So I'm like, wow, one day when I grow up, I'm going to have my own card because I'm going to be famous athlete. The only problem with that is I have no athletic skill. And I'm lazy and I'm not going to work to get that. So that was another dream down the toilet until I found Chops, Cards, and Print on Demands. They are the number one independent card makers. When I tell you they make some fabulous collectible cards, it's crazy. Plus, they're going to help Professor live his dream. I am going to get Professor Burr collectible cards. I'm working on it now. And you're not going to believe I can get 18 personal trading cards for only $50. Man, where can you beat that? You can't. Unless you use Professor Burr's code. That's Burr 15. If you use that code, you'll get 15% off your entire order. I mean, what more could you ask for? That is Chops, Cards, and Print on Demand. Your number one for independent card making. Guys, girls, again, thank you for joining me for this podcast appreciation month. This has been rolling along so well. And today I have these gentlemen. And funny enough, we met a couple of months ago. We've been talking and we've just been vibing real good. So I want to believe it wasn't me because I don't have good ideas, but they like, hey, you can come on our podcast and we can come on yours. I'm like, man, that's perfect. And we can do it. So about 2.5 hours ago, I was on their podcast. And man, I had a great time. So let me introduce Headlocks, Heels, and Habit. Guys, how are y'all doing today?
Doing good. Thank you for having us.
Doing great. Doing great.
All right. And like I said, I genuinely had a great time doing you all's podcast.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
As every show that I do, I always start with this question. How did you get into wrestling?
I'll let you start, Uncle Slam.
All right, you gonna let me jump? I would probably say, like most kids, I started probably watching because I'm kind of old. And I'm gonna be telling my age. I was watching Saturday night's main event. And I remember, I think the first it might have been Undertaker and Paul Bearer on Saturday night's main event, and I'm not sure like it was Hogan they were going against or not, but I was just so amazed at these characters that I'd never seen before and believed everything that happened was real, and that kind of hooked me right there. And from there, it was, rocking wrestling to, watching wrestling like whenever I could, because back then you didn't have a whole bunch of options besides maybe pay-per-view, and I wasn't really rich, so I didn't have cable or anything like that. But ever since, I've kind of just been enamored with it, and I was lucky enough to be blessed to go through, like the Monday Night Wars and get to see all the great wrestlers and all that. So wrestling just kind of always been there. Now, I did step away for a little bit, when I had kids, but it brought me back. And I've met a lot of friends. I've met a lot of good people from it. So, I mean, wrestling has kind of been a big chunk of my life or whatever.
That's great. It's great.
I would say for me, my first real memory of wrestling was I remember watching a match with my stepdad where Hulk Hogan was taking on Hercules Hernandez. And it was on Primetime Wrestling. It may not have even been called Primetime Wrestling at the time, but I just remember it was that Monday night slot on USA. I know they went through a few different name changes and stuff, but what really got me hooked was the Saturday night's main event between Hogan and Paul Orndorff, where they had the cage match and they both jumped off at the same time. And I just remember like my stepbrother and my stepdad arguing in the living room about who hit first. So, and I was probably about 7, maybe a little bit younger, and just being there and watching it. And like I started analyzing, who hit first, and from that point on, I was just like, okay, well, who's this Hulk Hogan guy that everybody loves? Personally, I loved Hulk Hogan. He's what got me into the business. But as time went on, I kind of drifted away from Hogan and kind of found my own voice. You know what I'm saying? Like, with who I really liked and everything. But that's probably my first real memory and what got me into wrestling was that Saturday night's main event.
That is awesome. So before we go on, and it's funny because I just had this conversation about, hey, I got your QR code right here. And then most time I forget to plug it. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it early so I don't forget. Guys, girls, please, this is their link to their Facebook page. Go in there and look at their material. It is great. And follow them if you feel inclined to. There's a lot of different podcasters and have different styles and stuff. And I would be I would be a bad host not to be truthful. Their style is very similar to mine. When growing up as a kid in the 80s and how wrestling got into it, we seem to have a lot of similar opinions and stuff. And I love what they do. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
definitely use that QR code.
Yes. Also, I wanted to say, love the new intro music. It was awesome.
Yeah, I was over there vibing to it. You know.
I was too. I was sitting there like,
glad I wasn't on video though, because nobody wants to see
that. I appreciate it. So, you in the wrestling stuff. What got you all into? Hey, let's do a podcast. What was the nucleus of that?
I tell people, go. You want to take that one?
Well, we've always had we've been friends for a while, and wrestling's kind of what pulled us together. Like I think we met at Arby's, working together or whatever. And then I started going over his house, watching pay-per-views or whatever. But we've always been opposite when it comes to pretty much anything, whether it's sports, politics, wrestling. I'm a Bret Hart fan. He's a Shawn Michaels fan. I'm a Lakers fan. He's a Celtics fan. So we've just always been opposite, but we're the type of person that we can yell, scream, and argue, but then 5 minutes later we're like, hey man, like, what do you think about this? Like, we just always had that dynamic where we just love to debate. Like, that's just who we are. Like, if you ask any of our friends who are close to us, I'm pretty sure they've told us many times to shut up and quit arguing. So, I mean, that's just how, and he came to me one day and was like, hey man, like, do you want to do a podcast on wrestling? I was like, well, I mean, that's what we normally do is talk about stuff anyway, so why not just record it? It just makes sense.
I tell people we were Pardon the Interruption 10 years before Pardon the Interruption.
We just didn't record it. That's what it was.
Right.
So, speaking of which, we're missing the third member of your team.
The Vipress, yes. She's having some technical issues today.
And I meant to say this on y'all show. Vipress, I hope you get a chance to watch this. I definitely want you looking forward to talking with you and having fun. But it's okay because I've rubbed people the wrong way. And if I didn't have to be with me, I probably wouldn't have shown up either. I'm just saying,
Hey,
but
we're our own worst enemy.
it's just a joke. Again, I hope to have you on very soon, and I can't wait to get your take on things also.
Oh yeah, she's very knowledgeable. Very
Yeah.
knowledgeable. She definitely does a lot of the leg work as far as watching shows and stuff for our show, and helping keep us up to date because of where we've got busy lives. I mean, not saying she doesn't have a busy life either. She's got kids as well, but she's just able to sit down and watch the shows more than we are and everything. So she definitely is a big asset to the show.
Yeah, she fills in the gaps. Like whatever we don't cover. Like she's usually the person that can let us know, or has an answer to a question that we might not know or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, she's definitely a valuable member of our team. Can't wait to have her back.
So, with that being said, what do y'all think makes your all's podcast different than anyone else's?
You want to go first, Legend?
Well, I've never thought about it like that, but I think that the different, especially with the Viperess and what she brings, the difference in the eras that we were really involved in, because she's been more involved with the modern era. And like Uncle Slam said, I kind of took a break myself, a couple of times with kids and life happening and everything. So I took a break from watching as much as I used to and stuff. I'd keep up with it here and there, but it wasn't like every Monday night I got to be there sitting on the couch watching Raw and everything like it used to be. But like, I think it's just the dynamic that we have of the different ages, plus the different eras we were into, plus again, like Uncle Slam touched on, mine and his whatever opposite attract thing is, that we've always had going on. So I think I just think it brings a dynamic of, okay, we know these people, so, these people aren't going to necessarily agree in a debate all the time. So what does that disagreement look like? But the fact that we're able to also, I guess, doing the podcast has really showed me a lot of, okay, I see things in a different way. So it also has brought that dynamic in of opening our eyes to different things too.
I think kind of what makes us different is I'm going to touch on kind of like a little bit what he said was like, between us, we probably have almost 100 years of watching wrestling or whatever, not to tell our age or anything like that. So, and it does cover, we're talking about from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, 20, 20, 25 right now, or 26 now that the years come in. All this time we've been watching and absorbing wrestling, and we have a passion for it. You don't watch something or stay with something for 30 plus years like if you don't enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just what it is. And I think that of course we have different perspectives. I don't want to get too PC, but I'm different from Jason. Jason's different from me. Obviously, Carrie's different from me. And everybody has their own views, and we listen and take everybody's ideas into consideration. So, like, we don't think anybody is, there's no real leader, like in our group. Like it's definitely, we're three people trying to work as one to, like understand and try to, So I think a lot of it has to do with just a different perspective, just a different age group, just all the different, you know, our outlets kind of make us different than everybody else, and also like we're not just willing to stay with one thing. We'll do indies, we'll do professional wrestling, we'll go, the history of wrestling. Like we don't just stay with regular WWE. Like if AEW is doing something great, man, we're going to check that out. If TNA is doing something great, hey, we're going to talk about that. Like we'll talk to refs, we'll talk to valets, we'll talk to promoters. Like it doesn't have to be somebody who's a superstar. Like we want anybody that's in wrestling whether you're a promoter, because everybody has different perspective, everybody has different ideas, and they see stuff different ways. So I think that's kind of what makes us as a group different, because there is a lot of different perspectives going on.
The diversity.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love that. So, with that being said, how do y'all feel about the product right now? Um, what is your take on wrestling 2026?
I think personally for me, as far as like just professional wrestling in general, I think it's great. I think it's getting, especially the indies, it's getting recognized in ways that it wasn't recognized even 10 years ago. And for, and especially for the indies, it's been remarkable for the product in general. There are, I have issues with the product itself that like WWE has, not because of they don't have good performers or anything like that, but it's the TKO, the corporate side of it, I'm having issues with. And because just like we discussed on our show, they're, and Uncle Slam says, he's kind of coined the phrase, they're taxing our loyalty to wrestling. And it's like, well, we know these people are going to show up, so put another $5,000 on that front row ticket. And it's like, but the thing that I think that WWE is going to soon forget, and again, when I say WWE, I mean TKO because they're the parent company. But I think what they're going to soon forget is that the wrestling business in itself is doing phenomenal, and there are other options. And you're eventually aiming that gun down at your own foot. So I don't know. Just in my perspective, the wrestling business itself is doing great. Some wrestling companies could do better.
Um, I'm kind of inclined to agree with him on most things when it comes to the wrestling business. Like stories, I think they were getting a little predictable, but they have kind of tightened up some. So like I do like where it's heading now. I don't blame it all on Triple H, just because like just like anything, man, he's got a boss. He's got corporate people in his ear, kind of telling him what to do. He might not know what wrestling fans want. But I also kind of feel like it's all about money almost a little bit more than it was before, because they're always talking about the gate. They're always talking about the attendance. We broke this record. We broke that record. But at the same time, like if everything is so great, why are ticket prices so sky high? Why are prices doubled or tripled in 10 years? Like if everything is great, would you make it a little cheaper? So I think, like I've said before, they are taxing on loyalty, um, because it's real easy. Like if you go outside of America, and I'll take just watching wrestling for a prime example. You can watch pretty much everything you want from America on Netflix, including pay-per-views, PLEs, or whatever you want to call them. But if you come here, you have to have CW, you have to have Peacock, you got to have ESPN, and all that adds up to what, at least to be a fan, you got to pay. I think it's almost $360 just to be a fan, just to watch WWE. Like if I'm watching like another wrestling organization. So I'm not happy about the prices. I like the product, but they got to do something about the prices, because I think they're eventually going to chase some people away because of the price.
And it's only going to help other companies like AEW
Yeah,
and other bigger companies like that.
yeah, because it's going to shift people's attention. Like I said, because I don't know if they know this. Wrestling is an option. It's not like groceries. It's not like electricity. It's a luxury that I
Yes.
choose to enjoy. And when it comes down to it, if I got to pick whether to go get some groceries or watch a PLE, I'm going to be getting some groceries, and you're just going to be out of luck.
Grabbing
So
them rabbit ears and calling it a day.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. I'll or, or they're just going to chase people to bootlegging, or
Yep.
they're going to chase it. I mean, of course, man, people will find a way, and it's going to be where they're not going to make money like they were before. I mean, like how it used to be back in the day. Everybody would record it, share it to a friend or whatever.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
it's 10 times easier now.
and I was gonna say I would never ever, let me be perfectly clear. WSN does not promote bootlegging or sharing not professional stuff. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Right. You're gonna get yourself in a lot of trouble that way
We
too.
don't do stuff like that around here. We don't promote stuff like that around here.
Right. Well, you can't because at the end of the day, if you start promoting bootlegging stuff, then you're just going to hurt your product because then you've got all these people that are going to come, these companies that are going to come after you for copyright infringement and stuff like that. And then it's going to give your network a bad name. You don't want that,
Criminals don't care.
That's right.
Unfortunately, people that don't follow the law will do stuff like that.
And one of the things that I mentioned to someone we were having discussions about, in the worst times, that's when the people do the most dirt. When I was watching American Greed. I'm big in American Greed, and they were showing where New Orleans, the hurricane hit there, and I was talking to my wife, and I told her, I like, boy, when tragedy happens, boy, bootleggers. I said, remember when Houston got hit and people places around was charging over $120 for a bottle of water, a case of bottled water. I was like, why would you do stuff like that? But people are greedy and just disrespectful and don't have the understanding of what makes fans.
And it's like it's lazy. It's I don't want to put in the work to actually get the permissions to do. That's fine if you want to show AEW stuff or another company's product on your network. That's all fine and good. Go get the permissions. Do it the right way. Do it the legal way, and then that way there's no issues, and it just makes your product look more legit.
Exactly. So, I heard it a couple of different times, and I actually brought it up too when I was on you all's podcast. The indie scene. Tell me what y'all's thought is about the indie scene right now.
I'll let you take that one first, Uncle Slam.
Well, at first, like I said, we really didn't know much about the indie scene until we, actually started going a lot. And I probably, like most people, like if you've never been to a indie match, you think it's not going to be as good as, say, a WWE production or a product live or whatever. But if you go, you will actually be kind of pleasantly surprised that the product is high quality, that these people put in a lot of work, a lot of effort, and that they are, superstars in the making. They're already wrestlers, but they're superstars trying to get there. And like I said, I mean, I have definitely become a big fan of it because you can get like up close and personal with them. You can talk to them. They're a lot more accessible. They don't have time because they're not a huge fan, superstar, so they don't mind sitting there and talking to you. They probably appreciate you coming to see them and supporting them, because you can spend your money anywhere and stuff, and it shows a lot that you're spending it to watch them. So yeah, I've definitely been a big fan. Like I said, it took me by surprise how much I would really like it, because at first I was not, I didn't really think it was going to be that great, but I go to all the shows now that I can. I try not to miss anything, like I said, and I would tell anybody that, like if you want to get into wrestling or if you want to start becoming a fan, to go to one of those shows and check them out.
Yeah. And if you've ever had any aspirations of being or whatever, of being a wrestler, a referee, a commentator, anything, go to these indie shows. Seek out who the owner is. You know what I'm saying? He may not have a school, but he may know somebody who has a school. He may know somebody that can help you break into the business. People forget that, the Rocks and the Stone Colds of this world and everything, and the Hogans and all these big stars and everything, they didn't just pop up in the WWE and say, okay, I'm a star now because I can talk and I can do a few moves. They went through years of, we called it territories back then, but it's basically the indie scene now. They went through years of that, traveling up and down the roads, getting their name known, and just trying to get recognized by a bigger promotion. Every time they went out there in a ring, the goal was to get recognized by a bigger promotion for a bigger payday, so on and so forth. And people forget that these people that are on the indie scenes are your next Stone Colds. They are your next Rocks. They are your next Hogans. They're the people that are going to be the future of this business. So, and like you touched on our show, Professor Bear, when you go and see those people, you kind of had a hand in making them the superstar that they'll be when they go to the WWE or AEW or New Japan or something like that. It's kind of self-satisfying a little bit, to know that, hey, I had a hand in that. That's cool, and I'm glad to see them doing that now.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've said many of times before, it's that, man, I can't do, but I can give you my energy to help you succeed for both of us.
That's
And
right.
it's such an amazing thing that I just like you all, I used to have the mind frame, well, if it's not WWE or at the time WCW or ECW, yeah, I'm not saying you were garbage, but you wasn't in the majors.
Mm-hmm.
And then my perspective changed, and I felt ashamed because I didn't grow up with the majors. I grew up with the smaller and the stars that, man, like people may not even know have heard of Thunderbolt Patterson
Oh yeah.
or Mr. Wrestling #2
Yep.
or the Fuller Brothers, or just so many great regional stars.
The Fargos and all.
Exactly. And they meant the world to us. They made us feel, and we and I always say this, especially being from the South, we had the mentality. Now we are very intelligent people. We knew that wrestling had an element of theater to it, but you can't tell us that it's fake. That
No.
was a quick way of getting your ass whooped.
Yeah.
You look, I don't care who you like, dislike, whatever. Wrestling, if you said that F word, it was about as worse than saying a bad thing about our mama. You were gonna get stoned. So that's the way we took it. It was the theater, as a lot of people call it, soap opera for men.
Yep.
But it's not just for men, it's for women. It's for people who like contact sports and and theater mixed up in all. You can watch a show You can be happy 1 minute, sad the next minute, joyous the next minute, and you're sitting there in front of your kids trying to hold back tears like, I'm not crying.
Right. You crying, I ain't crying.
Onions around here. So it was so much different emotions for us. And I understand that in different regions, they have their way of looking at it. But what the main thing that was common in any region of any type of wrestling is passion.
Mm-hmm.
The passion. They're gonna if you're watching a wrestling match and don't have some kind of emotion, you're not a wrestling fan.
Yep.
You don't get it, you won't get it, you will never understand it.
It's like I've always told people, like comic book fans, they've got Superman and Batman and Spider-Man and the X-Men and everything. We had, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and all these other people. They were our comic book superheroes. They were larger than life. They were these just characters that were out there. Nobody really acts like that. Watch Ric Flair after 30 years and you'll see that he really does act like that, but it's like, that was, and maybe that's the best way to, describe my love for wrestling is like, I didn't get into comic books. Like, I like a good superhero movie, if I had to pick my favorite superhero, well, wouldn't be hard to tell, but, at the end of the day, wrestling is where I went to.
Hey, I definitely understand. I think too and it's funny that you brought that up. As you can tell, I have comic books, video games, all kinds of stuff. It's the creative juices that I get from watching wrestling. It's the storytelling.
Right.
I love where I can watch a match, not knowing any of the wrestlers, and they can tell a story in their movement, their everything, and the reaction of the referee, the crowd reaction. It tells stories, and that's where it just draws me into a great wrestling. Some of the best wrestlers in my view, I always love. I could sit down anytime to watch Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle match.
Oh, yeah.
I'm never ever bored. There's never been a bad match between those two.
To build off what you were saying, about a month ago or so, maybe more. I know I'd seen this match before, but I don't know why it just never stayed in my head or anything. But I was watching a series of Halloween Havocs just over and over, just back to back. Had it playing on TV while I was working on stuff for our podcast and different things like that. Well, it came up a match between the British Bulldog and William Regal. Well, he was Steven Regal then. I'm telling you, I encourage anybody that wants to watch combo wrestling at its finest, go watch the first 5 minutes of that match. And the reverses and the combos that they were doing on each other, it was just like, I would have been afraid that I'd have grabbed somebody's arm and twisted it the wrong way and dislocated their arm. But they were just like, boom, 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 boom. It was like, that headlock into an arm bar type, just quick movement straight into one and the other, and then, of course, William Regal gets up and he's frustrated, blah, blah, blah. That's the storytelling you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? It's great.
So, with us diving into that, what are some of your go-to matches when you're like, I just want to I don't want to think about work. I don't want to think about the family. I just need that pick me up. I'm feeling a little low about the podcast. I need to pick me up. What matches are you going to go to?
Probably Survivor Series, the Montreal Screwjob, or the
I
match,
knew you got.
or the match where Bill Goldberg kicked Bret Hart in the head. No,
I
I'm
knew
just
you
joking.
were
No, I'm
saying some
completely
crap
joking.
like that. I can't.
I'm completely joking.
I was gonna be like, yeah, you know when Stone Cold beat Shawn Michaels for the belt, man, that was my favorite right there. Or when Shawn got put in that casket. Oh God, that was a great match.
But no, go-to match, man, that's good. That's a good one. Um, and yeah, I'm biased with this one, but it's hard to go against like the last two Undertaker Shawn Michaels matches. Steamboat Flair. Um, Lord, there's so many good ones that it's to me it's more about, like I said, that like the match between Regal and the British Bulldog. It's not really that I have go-to matches, but like I love going back and saying, okay, I know I've seen this, but I need to really watch it again with fresh eyes, as opposed to what I saw it 30 years ago when I ordered the pay-per-view and didn't really care about the William Regal British Bulldog match. I was ready to get to the main event. And now that I understand the business more and everything, and understand ring psychology and stuff, like I said, I watched that match and I'm like, man, that match stole the show that night. And unfortunately, Davy Boy was probably higher than groceries, and Regal may have been too at the time. So I don't know, and I don't mean that in any bad way, because everybody knew that these people had problems with substances. But it's like how they could go out there and do what they did, and not be completely sober, because again, me being completely sober, I'd be afraid I was going to dislocate somebody's arm by doing some of the stuff that they were doing, and the way that as quick as they were doing it. And it's just a testament to the good professional wrestlers that learned the art of the business, not just go out there, throw a couple of clotheslines, aka with a can of tuna, as Bobby Heenan said about the Ultimate Warrior. But yeah, but I mean, that's one of my favorite lines Bobby Heenan ever said. He said he looked like a guy walked out of a Gold's Gym with a can of tuna in his hand and said, "Hey, there's a WWF truck. I think I'm gonna be a wrestler." But it's like I said, it's a testament to them that they learned the business the way that they did. So that's the matches that I go for, is just like obscure stuff that I have to watch again with fresh eyes.
See, I'm a little bit different. Like my go-to would probably be more like TLC matches. Dudley Boys, Hardys, Chris and Edge, like any of those. Maybe Mankind and Undertaker, or Cactus Jack and Triple H in a Hell in a Cell match, something like that. I do like some of the older matches too. Like anything with Sting in it from WCW was always good. Because I've always been a huge, like that was my guy. He's, to me, he was kind of like the Undertaker in the WCW. He was that constant, consistent guy. Like he was always relevant. He didn't always have to have the belt on him to be relevant, but he was still always in the mix or whatever. Anything with Eddie Guerrero, it's gonna be entertaining and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like anything with Eddie, it's gonna be a trip. So Eddie's probably my go-to. Like if I want to feel good, like if I want to, like really go deep, and I'll probably, like I said, I'll probably go more TLC, probably Hell in a Cell matches, something like that.
Eddie could do stuff that was so funny in the ring that didn't even intentionally mean to be funny.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what was so great about him. But another team I need to throw in that I could watch all the time is the Midnight Express.
Oh, yes. So with that being said, which one is the Midnight Express? Was it Bobby and Dennis, or was it Bobby and Stan Lane, or who and why?
I'm going to say that, and I said this before when we did our tag team tournament for the greatest tag team of all times, which, by the way, the Midnight Express were in the finals against the Dudleys in that one, and unfortunately the Dudleys won. But I I have never seen a tag team that could switch out members the way that they did and still have the cohesiveness and the ability in the ring that they had. And I don't want to take anything away from anybody else, but just going back and watching a lot of his stuff and like listening to people in the business from that time and stuff, I think a lot of that has to do with how great Bobby Eaton was. Like, I don't think Bobby Eaton gets the flowers that he deserves. He is probably in ring work, probably top 10 all time. And I tell you another person that was probably in ring top 10 all time, and even Ric Flair has said this, was the Candyman, Brad Armstrong.
Oh my God.
He was great.
Mm.
He just had no promo skills and no personality outside the ring.
Man, you have hit. Oh, man, you hit something hard on me with Brad. Oh my God, Brad was so fluent
Yes.
in the ring,
He was
and
the best of all of the brothers.
yes, he was by far,
Yes.
and rival his dad. You could argue that Brad, in some points, Brad was better than Bullet Bob.
Yep.
But personality, nobody touched Bullet. Nobody.
No.
Road Dogg comes close, but Bullet Bob Armstrong was the man. But going back to a couple of things that, because y'all got my mind working, and we were talking about the matches. For me, when I want just a great pure match, it's always Tully Blanchard versus Magnum TA. I quit. For
Steel
me,
Cage, I quit. Classic match.
That was the greatest, and I will argue this with any match you can put up there. Even though I know Shawn and Taker had some great ones, Flair, Steamboat. Like I said, they took a whole story. Even if you did not know anything about the match, the competitors, whatever, they made you, in the end, cry. You were crying because Tully got beat. You were crying because Magnum won. You were crying because they got emotion out of you.
Yep.
And I love that match. Again, I sometimes I just sit and be like, oh, let me go watch Tully and Magnum.
I sometimes miss those bloodbath matches like that. You know, that they just had so much blood everywhere that it was like you can tell these two, you can call it whatever you want to, but you don't bleed your own blood and something be easy. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. You know, even if I've got to do the blade job myself, you know, that's psychological right there. I got to cut myself. You know what I'm saying, to make this look, you know, as real as possible. So it's like, yeah, no, those two beat the crap out of each other in that match. That is probably, you won't get no argument out of me about it being one of the greatest matches of all time, especially steel cage matches and, you know, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's just a great match all around.
And I love that they used everything. Like you
Yes.
said, the blood, it wasn't just bleeding to be bleeding. There was a reason. It
Right.
was with Baby Doll's interference. It all of that to me was just, it was masterfully done.
Yep.
Now, getting into tag teams, and we were talking about Bobby. One person, and to me, when they mention tag team wrestling, this man comes to mind. I don't give a damn if he was in his tag team partner was a broom. He would make it work, and just so underrated. Should have been a world heavyweight champion. He is the heart and soul of the Horsemen. Arn Anderson.
I 100% agree.
One of my favorites.
In my opinion, the greatest to never be world champion. And there's a lot out there who deserved it, but Arn, and that's a testament to Arn, is that he was so unselfish.
Yeah, he knew his role or whatever.
He literally, we talk about Flair living his gimmick. Arn lived his gimmick too. He literally took being the enforcer of the Horsemen serious. And it wasn't about, I got to be the world champion. It was that Horseman mentality of, it doesn't matter who's the champion as long as we are all the champions.
Exactly. I can hear him say it too. Doesn't matter who has the belt as long as we have the belt.
That's it. And it's like, I don't know. I can't. Best spine buster of all time, and probably the second best DDT of all time. I would argue that his DDT was better than Jake's as far as like execution and stuff, and the way he snapped that DDT.
I always like Arn's better and stuff, just because I thought his, like you said, because he snapped it. He was like,
yes.
Jake was more like a drop, and Arn just snapped his and shit.
Arn was absolutely. I could go on for days about Arn Anderson.
And what I love about Arn too, I recently saw a MLW match where his son Brock was wrestling their world heavyweight champion, and Arn cut a promo. Everybody can talk about The Rock with promos. They can talk Flair with promos. They can talk Dusty with promos. You can name it. You can say it all. But Arn promo was so heartfelt. You knew it was coming from his heart.
Yep.
And one of the best, to me, one of the greatest promos Arn ever cut was the match right before him and Flair wrestled. Arn said, I just got through throwing up in the back. This is not just wrestling anybody. This is not about wrestling a world heavyweight champion. This is wrestling my friend. Yep. Sometimes when you are close with somebody, sometimes you got to slap them to put them back in place. I don't get any pleasure from this, but I'm about to slap you back into place. Man, I know
you can feel it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what I found out later, which made it even more truthful, that he legitimately threw up before he went on. Everything he said was true from his heart. And Arn had the ability to, no matter what, he just told a great promo. And people don't understand. Everybody thinks, well, the Four Horsemen came from Rick. This was Arn's baby.
Totally impromptu.
He coined that phrase. I'm so glad that he has the rights to the Four Horsemen because he created that.
Yep. What'd he say? He said, you got to look far and wide to find four dangerous men like we are. He said, you got to look in the good book at the Four Horsemen. And he held up at four and said, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And from that day forward, they said people were coming to the studio next week with signs, Four Horsemen, Four Horsemen. I mean, in my opinion, they are the greatest and most well, they're the original, but they are the greatest faction of all time. And I give that up to about the Paul Roma edition. After that, it kind of went south. I seen what they were trying to do with like the Malenkos and the Benoits and stuff. But just like we discussed on another show of ours, I think that age gap between Flair, Anderson, and then like Malenko and, Benoit, I don't think that was believable. I think they should have brought in I can't remember who it was we had on. I think it was Bobby Blade, but he was talking about the Henning thing should have been the bridge between the younger generation horsemen and the older generation horsemen. If they wanted to carry on the horseman thing, they could have slowly let Rick and Arn hand it off to them and let them build their own group from it. But it kind of wouldn't have been the same thing either. So, I mean, so let me ask you this, Professor Bear, what's your favorite iteration of the Horseman?
Oh, it's the greatest form of the Horseman. It's Flair, it's Tully, it's Arn, and Barry.
Thank you.
I like Ole. Ole, Arn.
You know what? I respect Ole because and it's funny that we're talking about it because I found a article documentary on the Horseman, and they talk about the whole history of the Horseman and everything. And it's going to be on our network as soon as our network will be coming back this month. And I specifically got it because it is so detailed. But they were talking about how Ole, if you really want to look back at the Horsemen, you always start with the Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
And then how the original, and then Ole came in. And then Gene was about to go out, and they added Flair as a cousin.
Yep.
Then they heard about this kid in Continental that looked like Ole. His mannerism was like a Anderson, and Rick was there defending the world title, noticed him, and they had a conversation. And Rick was instrumental in getting Arn to Jim Crockett. So it's so in deep detail that I love. But now, the reason I say those are the greatest horsemen is because they dominated every major title. They had the world title. They had the tag world title. They had the U.S. title. They were running roughshod over everybody. Now, with that being said, I'm a believer that Arn, Rick, Chris Benoit, and Brian Pillman, they had a chance to do something special if Bischoff wouldn't have been a jackass.
Bischoff totally fumbled Brian Pillman.
Yeah.
Brian Pillman he was going to be one of the next big heels in the business had Bischoff not fumbled that. And I honestly and truthfully think that some of leaving WCW and having to go up to the WWE kind of perpetuated some of his substance uses because he was out of his element. He was in a new company. He didn't know anybody here, as far as like the top dogs, you know what I'm saying? Vince kind of had his hand on everything. There was no real leeway with anything where there kind of was in WCW at the time, which is why they brought Bischoff in to kind of, round things up and, make it more competitive with WWE and not just a wrestling show they put on. But I totally agree with you. I think they could, especially when Anderson slapped him that one. that was, and he just looked at him like, What'd you do that for? He was like,
Tell
"What
you
the
to shut your mouth."
right?"
Again, that right there shows the level of Arn. Arn Arn put anyone in his place. And let me back up for a second, because I should be reminiscing. Somebody needs to get on me that I said the greatest horseman and didn't include J.J. Dillon.
There you go.
Oh, true, true.
My apologies.
Yep.
But oh man, I could go on and on going back on certain things. Like one, I have to talk about this since we brought Pillman up. Um, the games master Kevin Sullivan and Chris Benoit, they tore the house down in their matches, and nobody realized on how true issues they really had.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yep.
Over Nancy. Yep.
Yep.
Oh my God. Sometimes I go back, like I said, some things it's just like, man, I want to watch something good. Oh shit, I hadn't seen Kevin and Chris in a while. I want to see them beat the hell out of each other.
Because you know they were potato at each other.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know they were, especially you get the opportunity out. We know we got it. We can't go into business for ourselves, but that don't mean that each of us ain't gonna give a few receipts in this match because of what's going on behind the scenes.
You done stole my wife. I'm gonna potato you like hell.
Yes, right, right. So let me ask you this about Arn. How did you? Because personally, I get why people see that it was disrespectful, but I also seen the comedic value and what they were doing at the time. But how did you feel about like the whole my spot promo from Kevin Nash? I'm not giving you my dog spot. I'm not giving you my liver spot. I'm giving you my spot. Had the beer cooler under his arm and everything.
I have to. I have to be honest. As much as I laughed at the funniness of it, it broke my heart because I'm like, if you had did anyone else, I wouldn't have thought anything about it. But I knew what Arn was saying was something genuine to him. And I was like, the level of disrespect oh man, I hated Kev for that. And but again, it's a business. And you can't Bret Hart everything. You can't take everything to your heart. I mean,
Bill Goldberg.
Oh,
Goldberg.
I told somebody I've been on this rant late last year about what's that jerk's name? They came over from WWE to WCW and buried him. Vince Russo.
Oh yeah.
Vince Russo made a comment, and it was about the black referee, and he made a DEI comment. Oh my God. When I tell you I went on fire everywhere I went, I cussed him, talked, and I just said everything. One day I'm just going and going. One day it hit me. I'm like, he got you. You realize that, right? I'm like, now, and I'm having a conversation with myself. I know what he's doing. I don't care. Then he wins. Like, look, when I have fans talking about it, like I see comments like, "Oh God, you got Bear started about Vince," and I realize I'm like, you know what? People have their opinion. He doesn't care what I think. this is what he does to get ratings and whatever. If I don't like it, don't watch. Don't
Exactly.
support. And that's what I did. Now, again, we all have our opinions. I got my little rant off, but now I just try not to even talk about him. Just like when the name Hulk Hogan comes up, everybody knows I've never was a Hogan fan. This as a kid growing up and seeing that era, because to me Hogan was fake. You're a world champion. You got one damn leg drop. Flair does 15,000 different moves, and so I have to remember, even though it's from my heart, some things are not that serious, and tone it down. So yeah, it took me a minute about Kev, but it and two things. One, it was funny, but two, for the people who actually watched it and didn't know about Arn Anderson, then you want to go back, okay, who's he making fun about?
Right.
And it gives another viewer a chance to learn about the great Arn Anderson.
I think for me, it was kind of, I seen, like I said, I seen the funniness in what he was doing. You know, because you had the DX mocking the nation, you know, different things like that. That, you know, people were spoofing each other on TV all the time and stuff. My biggest thing with it was like, I think it made it real that here's this guy Arn Anderson that I've liked watching for so many years. You know, like I said, I don't think of the World Television Championship without thinking of Arn Anderson.
Right.
And because of that, it's like, man, he's really leaving. You know, it's not this isn't a gimmick. This isn't, you know, a storyline. This isn't anything other than we're literally watching one of the greatest performers in this business ever say his goodbyes. And this is how we chose to reward him. You know what I'm saying? Because he wasn't at a point where you could reward him with a quick world title run or anything like that. So it was like he just has to ride off into the sunset, and that gets to be the last thing we remember him as. Like, I hate the fact that Arn's not in the Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame by itself. I think he deserves it as just an individual.
WWE Hall of Fame?
Well, yeah, there is no other Hall of Fame. I mean, as far as the big Hall of Fames, you know,
If you were saying WCW, I'd be like, it's a lot, but it's kind of
Well,
hard.
yeah.
He really wasn't that big in the WWE.
He was a World Tag Team Champion.
Yeah, but so was a lot of people, and it's not like.
But if he would have stayed in the WWF whenever him and Tully jumped, there's no doubt in my mind Arn would have been at least a multiple-time World Tag Team Champion and a multiple-time Intercontinental Champion.
I agree with that too. The World Champ is kind of a reach. Like I kind of would have wanted to see him, but I don't know if he had that.
Not at that time when they had the whole Hulkamania train going and stuff. Yeah. Arn wasn't going to beat Hulk, but Arn would have been a great person to put with Hulk for Hulk to work with and get Hulk over even more, because Arn could have been that bad guy that talked his shit. And, you know, sorry, I don't know if you're allowed cussing, but, you know, that talked his crap, like, because of the great promos, you know, that Arn could do, plus just the sneak attack stuff that Arn could have done on Hogan and stuff. The stories could have been great. But I see what you're saying. They weren't going to give anybody a world title shot back then other than somebody they thought was going to be the next big thing, a la Macho and the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
So this is gonna have to be my final question for y'all, because we could definitely go on and on.
Oh Lord, trust me, we could.
So we talked about the top of the Horsemen. In you all's opinion, who was the worst Horseman?
Oh, McMichaels.
I liked McMichaels better than I did Paul Roma.
Uh,
And don't get me wrong, as far as like personality wise, at least Michaels embraced it, or McMichaels embraced it.
I
You
almost
know,
felt like he tried too hard though. Like,
he
you know what
did.
I'm
He sucked. He was a former football guy that couldn't wrestle, but he at least embraced it. You know, he
saying?
was. I didn't
That's
see
what
Paul my spot, but not my dog spot, not my
But
liver spot. But no,
so, in my
Paul Roma.
opinion, in my opinion, Paul Roma was the worst horseman. And like you, Michael sucked as a horseman. But just like J Mac said, at least he lived the gimmick. He couldn't wrestle, but damn it, when they had to jump somebody, man, Michaels was there. When they tried
Right.
to bully something, my Michaels was there. When they were out, when you talking about out at the club drunk, man, Mike.
With his little dog too. But you know, that's the thing that kills me though, is with McMichaels is we know he couldn't wrestle, so why in the hell did we give this man a tombstone pile driver as his finishing move? Like, you're just asking somebody to get killed.
I know, God.
God rest his soul too, by the way.
Yes,
You know,
yes. Let me say this too. And the most disappointing horseman. Now, the one that sucked the most is definitely Roma. I argue with that. The most disappointing one was Jeff Jarrett.
yes.
Um,
I never knew if he was really a horseman or not, because that one week he was, next minute they were giving him shit about it, and then it's like, what's going on here? But yeah, and I think he could have been a decent horseman.
That's what I was gonna say. He was what they wanted when they first were doing that. They wanted Henning to be like, and they did the switch and crap. They took Jeff and made a joke out of Jeff, and Jeff could have actually put legitimacy back to the horseman name, and like we talked about, that young horseman, that legitimate, because Jeff had the pedigree to carry. Him and Benoit could have did some magic. But
I just wish he'd have changed that outfit.
Yeah.
That string outfit thing he had. I don't know what in the hell that was about.
Well, he didn't want to spend no more. He brought it from WCW. I can't blame him for that.
Wardrobe department should have looked at him and said, "Hey, buddy, we got to talk."
But see, Bishop was so far up Hogan's ass at the time, he didn't see nothing but the NWO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, rest in peace, Hope. Just because I don't like you don't mean I don't respect you and your family.
As I could never figure out what Jeff Jarrett was doing. Was he trying to be a Chippendale? Was he trying to be a priest? Like, what was that thing? Like, I never understood it. Like, I was like, you could do so much better without the neon flashing double J's on your hat.
Yeah, hey, we know how expensive things are now. So imagine having to change your whole wardrobe, and you're like, man, I'm going to repurpose this. I had to pay for this. I'm not redoing.
I would have taken my clothes to the wardrobe department and been like, can you get this top half thing that I'm wearing that's like a slit shirt that can be just taken off this and re-sew that or something? Because I don't know what, yeah. What is it? He's can't wait to get alone with his baby tonight, I guess.
Oh my goodness, guys! I really thank y'all for coming on the show and giving me your perspective of the wrestling landscape. And as I like to do, give flowers to everyone who deserves them. And I truly believe that y'all deserve them. Y'all bring so much to the wrestling business. I want you to have your flowers, smell them, and enjoy them, and continue doing what you're doing. And I definitely see some future things that we're going to do together, because my mind is working and I can think of some great things that we're going to do in the future together.
Sounds good to me, man. I appreciate you having us here.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. Guys, girls, this has been another fantastic episode of A Bear's Thought. As I always love to do, before I let us go, continue supporting indie wrestling. Again, I can't express that enough. Go give it a chance, even if give them a chance. And maybe they don't have the lighting like WWE, the sound system, they're in a smaller venue. You can still see great wrestling action, have great memories for you and your family for a lifetime. And you can go and actually come home with money and have merchandise and having conversations with wrestlers and going out to eat at a nice restaurant and still come home with money. So give them a try. I promise you, you should not be disappointed by it. So, guys, girls, we will see you around the campfire once again. I'm Professor Bear, and this has been A Bear's Thought. Y'all have a great one.